What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of HeyBucket Live. This week we have on a very special guest, two-time All-American, current ESPN analyst, and co-founder of The Package Deal, Amanda Scarborough. Thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited to be able to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
So take us back to your beginnings when you first decided that coaching was going to be your path. Why did you choose that, and what kind of drew you to become a coach?
So in college, if you would have asked me when I was at A&M if I wanted to coach or do anything with softball after A&M, I would have looked at you like you had two eyes. I would have said, nope, like I'm ready to go into marketing or work for the Astros, and I'm from Texas, or work with the Rockets or the Texans and just do something within sports, but not involved in softball. Then fast forward to my senior year at A&M, I have a career-ending injury. Like I wasn't able to play essentially my entire senior season. So it pushed me into this different role to where I was more like a student coach, and I was communicating with our pitching staff and our catcher. And we didn't have a pitching coach at A&M that year. Almost became the pitching coach that year in a very like loose, like informal way. Right. But it got me with a coaching mindset on that, like, oh, I actually like kind of like this. Like I actually kind of want to do this. And so after my senior year at A&M, I stayed on and coached at A&M for 2 years as the real pitching coach. And then just decided after those 2 years that I wanted to more so impact the youth. I wanted to make my own schedule, be my own boss, and be able to have my own pitching lessons, my own pitching clinic. And that kind of got me started into exactly where we are now, just wanting to have that flexibility, but more so impact pitchers from all over the world, not just pitchers on one college team. I wanted to be able to have a coaching impact for pitchers all over the US and all over the world. And I knew that I could have that impact. And that's kind of what kind of drew me to where we are now.
It's been so incredible to see the growth of your personal brand with Pitching Angel and amandascarborough.com, and just to be able to read those articles, see those videos, and you break down pitching for kids all over the world. What has kind of been your favorite part of seeing your brand just absolutely blow up?
You know, I really like writing. And so I think that a lot of people maybe first started to know me back in 2012, 2013 when I started my blog. And it still is up right now. And a lot of those articles are still relevant and still get looked at. And so I love to be able to make an impact and just share knowledge, spread knowledge. I would get asked a question in messages or in an email. And I'm like, well, if this one person is asking this question, then let me write a blog about it. The answer that I give them is an answer that could spread to people who are probably going through the same thing. So I truly like just wanted to be able to spread as much knowledge as I possibly could about the things that I went through as a player, as a young player, as a high school player, as a college player, and then now as a coach. So they all kind of worked together to where I could get my thoughts out in my blog. And then I started to create videos for Facebook. And like genuinely, Sam, like I just wanted to spread as much knowledge as I possibly could, because I knew that there would be somebody who could learn from it and that it could positively affect their journey and their mindset and their positivity and affect their life, for them to know that they're not alone, that there's other people that have questioned the same thing and have gone through the same thing, and that they can find comfort in that. I just love knowing that.
Yeah, speaking of that, one of my favorite articles that you wrote was "Dear Pitchers, you are not alone." What inspired you to write that? What was it, just the impact that you know you could have? And I feel like you said in the article, pitchers do feel alone out there. And I feel like it's been really nice for you to kind of create your own pitching community.
Yeah, you know, that's definitely the basis for me creating Pitching Angel, and kind of like guides all of my training, especially my mindset training, and leading everything back to still mechanics and accuracy and velocity and all of that. But I wanted every pitcher to know, because they were reaching out to me of like, oh, I feel so down. I feel like I can't do it. I feel like I can't fix this problem mentally or physically, whatever it was. And you get this kind of like desperation feeling. And I know it, I could sense it from them because I felt it myself, to feel like in the middle of a game or at practice that literally nobody is going through what you're going through. that you are the only one. And then you start to feel a little sorry for yourself. You start to feel more down and like you can't do it. So it's important for me to be able to spread a message that you're not alone. Like whatever every pitcher has given up a home run. Every pitcher has walked in a run. Every pitcher has given up a bases loaded big hit. And you feel this big because you're standing in the middle of a field. All the pressure is on you. All eyes are on you. And so it's important to really dig deep and talk to a pitcher, to her heart, to her mind, to where she can still feel confidence after that really hard moment where you're like vulnerable in the middle of a field because everybody knows that you're the one that gave up the big hit, that you're the one who didn't put the ball where she was supposed to. So I just want pitchers to feel comfortable and to find a little bit of peace, you know, when they're at practice or even in the middle of the game, that they're okay. And I felt that before my entire life growing up. And if I can spread that message of that they're okay and it's going to be okay, then I want to be able to do that and get into as many minds of pitchers as I possibly can and let them know that they're not alone.
Can you explain more about what kids can get from your Pitching Angel website?
Yeah. So, you know, Sam, what's really interesting is that I actually didn't have any online courses prior to last year
Wow.
because I had been traveling with the package deal. I had been traveling with ESPN. I never had time to where I felt like I could give my pitching training my 100% because when I do something, Sam, like I'm all in. I don't just want to be like kind of in just to do it, to say that I do it. Like I'm 100% all in. And so pre-COVID, I was traveling 2 to 3 times a week, probably home 30% of the time. And like when I'm busy, I'm not just like hanging out at the hotel. Like it's just a constant go, 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 go. So I've never had time to feel like I could sit down and create something great. And so with COVID, I created online courses. I created the brand of Pitching Angel 5 to 6 months before that, but the actual online courses I created during COVID because I had all this time. So I was able to come up with what I felt and what I call a pitcher success cycle, to where these are the steps that you can take in order to feel better about your mechanics, to feel like you can have confidence in a game, and to feel what I call unbreakable, to build an unbreakable confidence. Do this, which is build a strong foundation, then worry about accuracy, and then worry about velocity, and put all those categories together to become an unbreakable pitcher. And so I literally just finally got to put my thoughts down over of what I do believe in as a coach, how I do feel like I could help set a pitcher up for more success with the physical side of things, with training and having an actual focus about her workouts and where she's spending the majority of her time putting in her work. So yeah, that was probably the biggest thing that I came up with these online courses, was just coming up with a structure, coming up with a game plan, coming up with a system that I know works. And I also have a coach course that really dives into more of like a coach's mindset, or like putting a coach's hat on and teaching pitching from the position that I'm in now, because I'm not a player anymore. I am a coach. So teaching coaches what to look for in mechanics and video analysis, how to help them be more accurate, gain velocity, pitching philosophies, as well as pitch calling philosophies in my coach courses.
Do you also do some live virtual pitching lessons as well on there?
Yeah, so we end up not let well, I guess it could be called lessons. Like we'll have some Zoom calls all together to bring the entire community together. And that was another reason that I wanted to create these online courses too, was because in the middle of the pandemic, every pitcher was by herself. And so I know, and I'm sure everybody has felt this way, that when you can build that community and feel support and love and just comfort from other pitchers who are going through the same things that you're going through, literally like everybody is in the course going through the same things together and still are, then you're going to feel like you're not alone. So again, it goes back to that blog, Sam, of hey pitcher, you're not alone. Or dear pitcher, you're not alone. There's a hey dads one I think that I have, or something, that so many different blogs running through my head. But anyway, that sense of community gives you that sense that you're not alone and that you're working on something and going through the same things that other pitchers are going through with you. And you can support each other inside of these courses, and I can help support you too. So really kind of brings this togetherness and feel like you can do it.
I want to take you back to your beginnings of the package deal. So back in 2014, that's kind of when you guys all got it all going. But It started with you, Katie Schroeder, Morgan Stewart. Can you just tell us how that all started? Because we see what it is today, and it's the number one softball clinic probably in the world. And it's been absolutely incredible to see what you guys do, all the softball royalty you guys have on, and all the lessons. But how did you guys start this originally?
So we each have a slightly different connections. Like I didn't know Morgan Stewart, but Jen Schroeder and I are the same age. So we played together or played against each other a little bit, even though she's from California and I'm from Texas. Our paths crossed in high school playing at the same tournaments. And so I knew her from back then. And somehow like Morgan Stewart got brought in the mix because Jen knew her. And then of course, Katie is Jen's sister. And we were all kind of doing the same thing, but in different categories. So Jen, of course, was with catchers. I was doing clinics and lessons with pitchers, and Katie was really passionate about hitting, and Morgan had a really big passion from her days at Washington. They're really big on defense. And that passion carried over to her heart to want to work more with defenders. So we all just came together and we're like, let's be able to impact girls on a greater scale when we're all having the same goals to not just help a softball player become better on the field with her mechanics and her physical abilities, but we all have this same mentality as coaches to help girls feel more confident, to help them feel empowered, stronger, to help them feel like they can achieve greatness. That even though we all were Division I players, our stories looked a little bit different, and our personalities are different. So that worked as well too with becoming the package deal and us coming together and understanding we don't teach the same thing, we don't have the same personality, but we all have the same goal of helping to elevate softball players and their confidence and the life lessons that they learn through sports. And oh yeah, like we're pretty good at teaching the physical sides of things too, but I feel like the package deal is just even more about the mental side of things and being good role models for young softball players.
Yeah, I remember when I was 14 years old, I grew up in LA and I would drive an hour and a half just to take lessons with Jen Schroeder. And that was an absolute privilege. That's when she was in the small little section of Tony Rico's shop, and it was just me and her. And like now looking back on it, I was like, wow, I got a one-on-one with Jen Schroeder. Like that's pretty cool. Like honestly.
Well,
So
you're making me think too. They wanted to call it, forgot what the name it was. I think Katie, Morgan, and Jen first. They had this idea of like the pack mentality or something because they all played in the Pac-12, so hence like package deal. So just to play on the pack. And when I came along, I'm like, hey guys, like I didn't play in the pack. Sorry. Like I played over in the Big 12 back in Texas A&M Big 12 days. So I was like, but what if with the package, instead of putting so much emphasis on pack, what if we turn the K in package backwards so it looks more like a looking strikeout, like a pitcher and a strikeout. And so it's kind of a cute little story because again, they're all from the West Coast, they're all from California, and I'm the only one who wasn't. And so just a kind of a fun like story insight into the package deal name, like how they came up with it, and then the spin that I added to it. Spin, no pun intended, with pitching and being the pitcher of the
of
group.
course not. So now you guys have obviously adjusted as well, and you've created the softball school. Can you explain what that is, how that got started, and how kids can participate?
Yeah, so softball school was started at the very beginning of COVID. So God, I can't even believe that it is almost a year ago. Like it's just so insane. But we started back in March when basically everything was getting canceled. We wanted to give some structure, some routine to all of these softball players who were losing everything all at once. Like they couldn't go to school, they couldn't be with their teams, they couldn't go to practice, they couldn't go to lessons. And so we were thinking, well, what if we created a softball school and it could be online, and we started it to be 90 days. It's so funny. Jen's calling me right now. That's just so random. It could be 90 days. And so throughout this school, and each weekday, we'll hold 3 live classes. And we all have so many people that we know within the sport of so many different genres: strength, mentality, nutrition, pitching, catching, slapping. And so we just like got out our little black book and started calling our friends to see if they would want to be a part of it. And they all did. And so it became really big, and less about me, Morgan, Jen, and Katie, and more about bringing an entire softball community together of the role models, but also being able to teach all these young players, and they could tune in, be a part of the live experience, go back and watch the replays whenever they wanted to, and just have a sense of normalcy almost. And also going back to that idea of being motivated to show up. Those classes actually are still live in softball school. We thought that we were going to take it down, but or we thought we were going to take it down sooner, but then COVID ended up going and going and going and going and going. So we know that there's still a need for those classes that are in there that you can watch on demand as many times as you want. And Monica Abbott has a class, Kat Osterman has a class, Natasha Watley, Chip Bennett, like the list of names goes on and on and on and on and just talking about their biggest passions, like Kat talking about a drop ball and Natasha talking about being a slapper, and same thing with Chip. So it's really, really cool.
It's so incredible just that you can have their knowledge and be able to pick their brains, like especially as a young softball player, like what else could you possibly ask for? And it's so incredible too, because you guys also dive into the recruiting aspect. I would love to hear what you guys have to say about that. What are some tips that you have for young girls, especially during these times that they want to make themselves better, they want to stand out? What can these girls do?
I think just overall, I hear, especially when talking to when I'm working for ESPN and talking to the college coaches, um, all they talk about is athletes. They want somebody who's athletic. They want somebody that could plug into their team and play right field or second base or third base, or maybe they could even put her behind the plate if they needed her to. And so, of course, pitchers are going to be a little bit more specialized, but if you could be a pitcher who hits, that even makes you more valuable. I talked about that, I think, last week on Ashley Burkhart's podcast. Is like, you are a hot commodity. If you are a pitcher who can swing the bat for yourself, and that's something that I did for myself. I also play with Megan Gibson. We're the same age. We both pitched All-Americans at A&M. So you become so valuable if you are a pitcher who can hit. But for other position players, just not being just a shortstop or just a second baseman, but being able to move and being a team player. And I think too, Sam, at the end of the day, you have to be athletic, you have to be coachable, but you also have to be able to hit. A coach, and that's another thing that I've learned from talking to all these coaches, is they're going to hit their best nine, because offense is the best that it's ever been in our game. Or I don't have the stats to prove that yet, but it just feels like it, right? There's all these home runs being hit, big high scoring games, pitchers' ERAs are inflated. So they want the player who is going to be able to hit and put up big numbers for them. So I think if you're a player who can swing the bat, kind of make some noise for yourself, and do it at the plate, then you're going to have really big opportunities in college as well.
Would you say that that's one of the biggest differences that you have seen from when you were being recruited by Texas A&M and when you were in high school to now? For me, I stopped playing about 6 years ago now. I was a 2014 high school grad, and I was more of a DH type catcher. I couldn't really move to different positions, but I could hit. So that was kind of my golden ticket. I feel like now the game has totally changed. What have you seen with how the game has evolved over the years?
Well, it's so hard too, especially because we went through that really long, big spur of recruits getting recruited so early. So it was kind of a guessing game to project to see how an eighth grader, who was committed to, we'll use A&M because it's just my school, A&M, was going to play out. She could either do really well or she could end up being a dud. I mean, that's happening all over. Like, I used A&M as an example, but literally you could slide in any school, and a coach was having to recruit just so early and based off of what the parents look like, and based off of what they thought she was going to become. So I think that's probably the biggest difference, like overall, is thinking like how the strategy of coaches has played into this, to where they've had to look for different things. They've had to adjust to NCAA rules changing to where they could recruit really early, and now it changed again to where they can't talk to them until their junior year. So I think just the whole entire strategy of trying to plan out your team with who's going to be on it, what they're going to bring, the role that they're going to play, the culture that they're going to bring to it, like the off-field type stuff, if they're going to be a leader and play into the type of culture that you want to build as a coach. And I think something else that's throwing a wrench into things is the whole COVID year. So not only are they having to deal with recruits, but they're having to have these big roster sizes that's going to play such a big part in this upcoming college season of 28 players, 30 players, and a pitching staff of 7 or 8. So it literally, I guess the point being, it's changing every day, just like life is. Like recruiting for these college coaches is changing every day, and right now they can't even be in person still because there's a freeze or whatever they call it, and that's been going on for a while too. So it's so hard to project. It really is. But yeah, I really don't envy being a college coach this year because it's so hard to recruit and manage these big roster sizes. It's wild.
Yeah, so what is going on there? So I know that a lot of girls, including, Rachel Garcia and Bubble Nichols, they're coming back for their years. How are you going to manage that? Because now you're going to have girls that are probably, I feel like Rachel's probably a sixth year at this point in her career. And
Yeah.
then now you have girls who are like 17, 18 years old. Like it's just such a, it's so different now. Like what's going on this year in regards to that?
Yeah, I think that another thing that they're going to have to manage is practice time because while the roster sizes got bigger, the coaching staff and the number of coaches that you can have on a staff that stayed the same, and also the number of hours that these teams can practice, with NCAA rules stayed the same. So they're going to have to get creative. And while I I do believe that competition at each position on all of these teams will be better than it's ever been before because these players will be pushing each other every day at practice. I think that that's great, but I'm wondering the amount of development that they're all going to get to be able to get that one-on-one time with their coach, whether it's in the bullpen, in the cages, out on the field, taking ground balls. Like, I don't know, maybe that's going to change to where they're not able to develop as much because all those other things stayed the same amount of coaches, same amount of practice time, and more girls to be able to work with. But I do think that the level of competition will be really, really, really high this year overall, because you're going to have all those great players who stayed or came back that you said, like Rachel and Bubba, and then Deja Mulipola at Arizona. But you're also going to have that entire new class coming in that are just going to push. The rookies are going to push the vets are going to push the rookies. And it's just, it makes everybody better. Like it makes the entire competition better all across the country, I think, or at least that's how I hope it plays out.
A little healthy competition never hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
So UCLA was just voted as unanimous number one going into the polls for this upcoming season. Who's your sleeper team this year? Who should we have our eye on? What are your thoughts on all the rankings?
Yeah, that's a good question. UCLA should for sure be the unanimous number one with the amount of talent that they have. And then they should have even been number one, like without Rachel and Bubba coming into this year.
Mhm.
And so you add two future Olympians or two current USA national team members back to their team. It's only going to make them better. I'm thinking of, Oklahoma didn't have a great start to the year last year, but I think that from what we hear about from Patty Gasso, she's claiming that like this is going to be her best hitting team maybe ever that she's ever had. So I think that Oklahoma will be really strong. I think too, to a team like Arkansas, who doesn't really get talked about a lot in the SEC because there's so many other big powerhouse type teams like Florida and Alabama and those guys that get talked about a lot. But Arkansas is a team that's really building and building and building and building and getting better. And also Oklahoma State, Sam. Oklahoma State's going to be really, really, really good with Kenny Gajewski, and he's pulled a bunch of transfers and are again building on what they did last year. And they started off really, really strong in February and March. But those are probably the teams that come to my mind. And one more, probably LSU. I think LSU was really young last year and really young and strong. And I think that they can make some noise too.
Yeah, we are so excited to see you back out there calling games as well.
I really can't wait just to see some pitches, like see some games, see some pitches. But you know what I think is really cool, Sam, is like being able to see these players out there playing in these games. They're going to have this motivation and joy, I think, with playing that maybe we didn't see in 2019 or in 2018 because they had the game taken away from them. So that whole idea of playing every game like it's their last, I think that we're going to get to see these really elite athletic players do that and play that way and have a really great season. I'm putting out good vibes for it. I think it's going to happen. It's going to be a really, really great season.
Yeah, I think it's been kind of a nice mental reset for everyone to just enjoy, just enjoy the little things. Don't take anything for granted, especially all the seniors, they kind of get one more shot to go get it, and that's going to be really exciting. I'm definitely looking forward to that. Before we let you go, we got to end with our little speed round on Hey Bucket Live. This is our signature thing. I was stalking on Instagram a little bit. I see that you're a huge Bachelor fan. What do you think of this season so far? Who's your favorite? Who's your least favorite? I think I probably know, but I want to hear what's your take.
Oh, I have loved the fact that we've gotten like 3 seasons back to back to back. So going from Claire to Tasha, which I just loved Tasha, to now
Mhm.
Matt. Like I just feel like it's like binge watching a good Netflix show, except everything's brand new. I really like Matt. I think that he has his hands full. I think that all of these girls are a little bit more dramatic than usual somehow. My least favorite is Queen Victoria.
Mhm.
And I just really can't stand her. And honestly, I don't think I have a favorite yet. I I really don't. I like Brie a lot, but
Me
nobody
too.
else really sticks out to me. But I think Brie is just so beautiful.
Yeah, she seems awesome. But Victoria, I really hope that she was one of those producer picks because it is just so obvious that he has no connection with her at all, and she's just horrid. So, no offense, Victoria.
I know. And somehow I it's like the same narrative every single year and I get sucked in every time. I'm always going to watch. There's always going to be a Victoria and you know what's going to happen, but I just still watch every year. I love it.
Great producing. We love it.
Yeah.
All right. So you also love to travel. Where is your happy place?
Ooh. I really, really liked New Zealand. And I would like every time I think about traveling, I'm like, oh, could I go back to New Zealand? In New Zealand, there is this one place called Queenstown that is the most beautiful place that I've ever laid eyes on in real life in my entire life. Um, and I just really want to go back there. I loved it so much. And then there is another place called Byron Bay in Australia. I think a lot of people think about Sydney and like just some other places in Australia, but Byron Bay is like definitely a smaller place and just super magical. If anybody listening ever wants to go to Australia, and if we ever get to travel internationally again and get let into Australia, I would highly recommend visiting.
Yeah, that'll be hopefully my first stop. I can't wait to get back out there. I mean, with work and everything, I mean, we're just lucky to be back working. So, but we'll definitely save it for a bucket list.
Bucket list, no pun intended, right? Hey, bucket,
Yeah.
bucket list. I like
There's my pun. Thank you very much.
it.
All right. Well, I love reading all of your articles, and obviously, you're a very talented writer. What is your motto that you live by?
Oh, gosh, your questions are so good.
Oh,
Um,
thanks.
that the greatest decision that we choose every day is to choose faith over fear. I feel like there's
Mm.
so many different instances where we get pushed. Are we going to choose faith or are we going to choose fear? Like literally every day you're going to come up against that. And so we're not going to be perfect with it. Like I'm going to choose the fear way probably a lot, but reminding myself to have faith, reminding myself that it's okay to be happy and trust your gut and choose the best decision for you in the moment and not live in fear. I think is definitely one that I want to remember more times than not, and also just spread to other people too.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and share your wisdom with everyone. I know all the girls out there are just absolutely obsessed with you and the package deal and everything that you guys have done for the softball world. It's been absolutely incredible. Can't wait to watch you call games this season on ESPN. And thank you again so much for joining us.
No, I appreciate you guys having me, and to everybody out there, I appreciate all of your support all the time. I feel like HeyBucket and myself have kind of grown up together with the forums and my slow motion video and ESPN. So I know there's like little chatter all the time, but I think in the most part, I really, really appreciate everybody's support. Facebook page, Instagram, social media, all the things. So good luck to everybody out there, and thanks for having me.
Thanks for watching. For more content like this, be sure to check out fastpitchfilms.com. I'm your host, Sammy Glantz. See you guys next time.